back to their chairs. I have to get my prayer out. Jeez. Here we go. I don't want to make a mistake when I'm doing this. He's smoking. This all has to come into a business plan that we can afford. It's already, like I was just saying over there. Recording. I'll call this meeting to order at 6:40, December 16th. We'll say the prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespassers as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Any pecuniary interests? The council, seeing none. Moved by Kathy Wager, second by Terry Miller. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region adopts the agenda for the meeting of December 16, 2015. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Terry Miller, seconded by Kathy Rager. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region adopts the minutes of the November 18, 2015 and December 2nd, 2015 regular council meetings. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. by Kathy Rigger, seconded by Terry Miller, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approve the attached schedule of general purpose accounts in the amount of $436,657.90 and water fund accounts in the amount of $5,745.65 for the period November 1st to 30th, 2015, and that all the accounts be paid. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? None. Carried. I read them all. Moved by Terry Miller, seconded by Kathy Rager. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region receives and files departmental reports for the Treasurer, Public Works Manager, Building Department CBO, Environmental Services Manager, Fire Department Manager, and CAO and Reeve. Wayne's not with us. Okay. Treasurer's report. You got anything to add, Marcia?
No, I don't.
Any questions of Marcia? Okay. Public Works report. Anything to add, Bill?
Just that the weather has been great this year.
That it has. Any questions for Bill? Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, actually on that note, so with respect to road budgets, do we expect to be saving money this year because of salt and sand?
We're about $50,000 under budget right now for salt.
Under?
Under, yeah. So it's pretty good. There's some major savings in the roads budget with normally with winter maintenance being last year, well, the first part of January and February being so cold and not much snow, so we need to do a lot of snow plowing, we didn't need to do a lot of salting, so we've saved quite a bit in those areas.
And do you expect, so water breaks as well? I know, was it last year or 2 years ago we had?
2 years ago we had a lot of water breaks. Last year we had a lot of water freeze-ups, which pretty much we didn't, I think we only had 2 water breaks, but the amount of freeze-ups we had took care of that, that surplus for the water breaks.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
Just a comment. I was up to Acres Road this morning, and I think you did a great job of what has been done there so far. It's made a big improvement on that one side anyway.
Yeah, we're still looking at doing more. We're waiting for a couple more locates, and we have a rock hammer scheduled to come in to make it a little bit better yet.
Well, I think it's well done, and I think it was badly needed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, moving on. Doug, anything to add?
Nothing at this time.
Any questions for Doug? All right, moving on. Steve, anything to add?
No, Mayor Johnson.
Any questions for Steve? Councillor Jackson.
Just one question, Steve. When you talk about a future decision has to be made with regards to a transfer station, how many years are we looking at that?
Well, the forecasted capacity for the site is 26 years, but if that particular site is going to be the location of the transfer station, then that transfer station will greatly reduce that potential capacity, because you're taking up infill area where you could be compacting waste, and you're going to be setting up a transfer station. So I guess when you come into the site and when you see the area where we have all the containers and stockpiles, that is basically where it would have to go. And the design of the site that MOE approved shows garbage going over top of all of that. So that 26-year capacity will be reduced, and I really can't tell you by how many years, but it will take quite a chunk out of it.
Is there a way of finding that out? Like, obviously, it's not gonna be within this council's term. I would hope not. But I guess just to be aware of that, so not 10 years out, then you find out, oh my God, I've got to do it now.
Yeah, I'll do my best to figure that out, but for our next committee meeting in February, I have some maps and some drawings for all of council so they can get a really good grasp of what the potential waste mound is going to look like. So we'll go through that in February.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions for Steve? Councillor McLaughlin?
And just on that question, Steve, I wonder, is there other options than having to have it at that landfill site? Could we purchase property or?
Well, we could build it right on our contaminant attenuation zone, but there's no hydro there. We'd have to run hydro further down the road. Yeah, there are options.
Okay, maybe, excuse me, I'm wondering if maybe you could bring those options as well forward, so we could have a real good look and discussion.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Thank you, Steve. Our fire chief is not present, so we will skip that report. Okay, and we'll move to the CAO report. Oh, sorry. Councillor McLaughlin.
I'd just like to back up, and maybe Bill could help me with this question.
Okay.
I've had issues or complaints about Moores Beach Road, and I'm wondering, I realize that it's a private road, but we also have to get into service if there happens to be fire. Are we able to get in there, or what's our options? Bill, did you have a look at it, or?
I've been up, and Doug and I are working on that, because Moores Beach Road is township-owned road. So we are working on that.
Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Jackson, do you have a question? Oh, okay. We're moving forward, and then Councillor Jackson has a question when you get your report complete.
Oh, okay. We've already had the discussion about the sidewalks, and Bill has met with the county, and we're going to get some pricing on repairing or replacing Cobden sidewalks, potentially as part of the county's project to redo County Road 8 next fall in September. I would draw your attention to an email I received from the Scotiabank manager, Pat Leach, where several people, the sidewalks are quite uneven in front of the bank. They have been patched with cold patch, which got tracked into the bank and caused quite a mess that she was not very happy about. But they have witnessed several people falling in front of the bank. So it is an issue that, you know, is high on the radar, and I guess until we get the pricing bill for council, I can't really add anything to that for your decision right now. The other thing I ask you is that if you, the municipal delegations for the OGRA conference in February will be accepted up until the deadline of January 8th, and this is for any of you who might want to, this is a competitive process to try and get the ear of a minister or deputy minister. There's no guarantees, but if there were specific issues that you wanted me to apply for to try and get a time slot for you as a delegation, I have until January 8th to submit.
Councillor Jackson.
And that was going to be my comment. So I have a couple. Obviously, Muskrat Lake being one of the top priorities. And not too far behind is the water and sewer cost to small municipalities. And then bike lanes and trails. I think all of those are highlights of what our municipality is facing, and certainly there are challenges with regards to those issues.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'd be happy to figure out which ministries that needs to be directed to and get the applications together and in. And I'll just make them very brief. They do, obviously, it's a 15-minute delegation. They do ask you to keep your request, they don't want you to get in there and have 15 topics that you're going to try and discuss. So certainly I can do that. I'll just, with your permission, go ahead and carry on. Okay.
Councillor Olmsted?
Yeah, just with respect to the sidewalks, probably a question for Bill. So is the county or the township responsible for the gutters on, down the sides of the street?
The gutters are the counties.
Yeah.
Anything outside the gutters right now, the county is saying they're not touching.
So where people park, the parking lanes, whatever you want to call it, that's our responsibility? So the area between the sidewalk and the gutters?
We call that no man's land, because it's not ours. We're responsible for the sidewalk, but the county owns the road right of way. So it's been a bone of contention, not only with this township and for forever. Who's responsible for that? So we pick up the snow in order for our village residents to park and the businesses to thrive. The county doesn't kick in any money for that. We look after that ourselves. And in all our villages, that's the main part that we pick up, is the main streets, which is county roads. So I don't know if it'll ever get figured out.
So can I suggest that our Reeve, who is a masterful negotiator, would perhaps bring that up to county, and we could, I know there are some areas, I think the one area just out here in front of Sears that it is sinking quite badly, and I know there was a couple areas you discussed, maybe it wasn't just a shave and pave, that there was some repairs needed. So I'd like that maybe to be looked at, that if we're doing the project, we incorporate all of the areas that need to be fixed in that one project.
Yeah, basically what I was told was anything to be fixed outside the gutter, the township will have to bore the cost.
Right. But you haven't talked to our Reeve yet.
Yeah, well, I will bring it up and talk to Steve Boland about it a little bit, try to investigate it a little bit for us. Okay?
Any other questions? Yep. And, have you got anything to add, Terry? Go ahead.
Just noticed an error here. This is my October roofs report. I don't. Anyway, I can come see Karen tomorrow. She can forward the November one ahead if you don't have it. No problem.
Did we not get a new one just tonight? Did I read a new one? Or is it an old new one?
You got a November one? Mine's October, both places.
You mentioned the new warden in the one I read.
Yeah, there is a paper copy.
Yes.
Did everyone get one of these?
Yep.
Okay, there's a paper copy in front of you.
Yes.
Mine was the October paper copy, though.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
For October, it says, yes.
Yeah.
Dated November 12th. Okay, Karen will circulate the corrected one.
Not a problem.
I read one. Yeah, the one in the email I read, and it's correct.
Okay, I haven't read the email one because it was added on later, and
Okay. No, we'll sort that out for the Reeve, and he's concentrating on negotiating about no man's land anyway. Councillor Jackson.
I found it interesting. I know that Hal spoke at the wardens and as well, but this was the first time in a very long time there was an actual vote for the warden's chair, and it was quite interesting to sit in on, and I had that opportunity. So it'll be interesting again next year, I understand. So it's worthwhile to attend, and I know Christine was there as well, so it was good.
All those in favor of receiving the reports from staff? Carried. Moved by Kathy Regier, seconded by Terry Miller. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region adopts the minutes of the Council in Committee meeting of December 2nd, 2015. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
All the resolutions, committee meeting of December 2nd.
Okay. Adoption of the committee resolutions from December 2nd. Moved by Dave Mackay, seconded by Kathy Regier. Be it resolved that the Environmental Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region receives and files a Muskrat Watershed Council update report. Any questions? Councillor Olmsted.
Sorry, in the agenda, it says resolutions from November 4th.
Oh.
Is that accurate or not? I see.
Sorry, Councillor, that's an error, and that will be corrected. That's from December 2nd.
December 2nd.
All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Moved by David Mackay, seconded by Kathy Regier. Be it resolved that the Environmental Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region receive and files the Aqua Service Cost Plus Variance Report for Quadrant 2, Q2, 2015. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Moved by Dave Mackay, seconded by Kathy Regier. Be it resolved that the Environmental Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to Council the December 2nd, 2015 status report prepared by JP2G Consultants, Inc. for the Cobden Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrades be accepted and the invoice of $24,913.45 be paid. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Moved by Terry Miller, seconded by Darrell McLaughlin. Be it resolved that the Public Works Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to Council that the Township accept the conveyance of 33 feet from center line of the portion of Broom Road located within roll number 049-055-30700 for road purposes. Property owners Eric and Philip Broom will be responsible for their own legal, title, registration, and survey costs. The Township will pay the municipal portion of the legal costs for this transaction. Any upgrades required to Broom Road shall be borne by the municipality in the event that the barn buildings, fence, or hydro poles that are located on the Broom's property need to be moved. Any costs associated with this work shall be borne by the municipality. A timeline of 6 months must be specified for the survey to be registered on title. Any questions? Councillor McLaughlin.
I'll direct this because we had this discussion when this came up. Did you find out the other section of Broom Road? Does it belong to Kowalski, or is it, that was the discussion, was whether we owned the whole right-of-way or it was a forest road, that portion, and I just wondered if anything had came forward.
According to the map that we looked at the last meeting, Mr. Kowalski owns those 2 parcels off Grant Settlement Road. I have sent him an email asking if there's any interest in conveying those two parcels so that the township would have conveyance of the entire portion of Broom Road that we maintain, and I have not had a response.
Okay.
As of yet.
So it is all a forest road, is that correct then? To your knowledge? Because that was a discussion.
To the best of my knowledge, and that's what that map indicated, Bill, you might know better than I. When I hear back from Mr. Kowalski, I'm sure he'll
Okay.
set me straight.
Because in my discussion with Mr. Kowalski, I was told that he owned both sides and it had not been deeded to the township, so
Okay.
that's all I know.
I was always under the impression it was, but obviously, I was incorrect. But he'll be very, very, quick to find that out once he goes to the land office, and we'll know quickly, yeah. All right, and then further to that, he's prepared, I'm sure, to convey it if in fact it's required? Or did he make any indication?
I've made the request and I haven't had a response
Okay.
to the email yet.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead with this one and hopefully continue it on. Okay, thanks, Councillor McLaughlin. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. That's more of a novel than a motion. Moved by Terry Miller, seconded by Darrell McLaughlin. Be it resolved that the Public Protective Services Committee of the Township of Whitewater receives and files the Upper Ottawa Valley CPAC report for the November 12th, 2015 meeting. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? None, carried. And I'll just go ahead. Oh, okay.
Oh, you'll need a new seconder on that.
Need a new seconder. Moved by Kathy Rager, seconded by Charlene Jackson. Be it resolved that the Recreation and what? Oh, and Culture Committee of the Township of Whitewater Region recommends to the Council that the Village of Cobden Bylaw 1986-4 pertaining to the Cobden District Recreation Association be updated and have Councillor Olmsted be appointed to the committee and appoint a staff backup to be determined. A new lease agreement should be reviewed with the township lawyer and entered into between the township and the association. Also, the township will investigate the possibility of incorporating the Cobden Rec Association. I'm just wondering if the staff member, instead of being a backup, was just, we could just go with and staff member.
I asked Nan before and she agreed.
Yes. But I could also sit at any time without being just a backup, is what I'm wondering. Would that be all right, Kathy? Charlene? Okay, then can you make the appropriate scratching? I'm not sure if you were here for that, Reeve Miller, but we have a tendency if somebody isn't here or is chairing the meeting that they get nominated for almost anything. I know, but I said if you're not, you were the chair, Councillor McLaughlin.
Well, I'm just wondering on that note, when I talked to Councillor Olmsted, I think his wife sits on that committee.
Does he? No?
No? Okay, I thought you said she sat on that committee. Okay, I'm sorry.
not going to read the entire thing again. I will start off with the appointed committee members. It will be Councillor Olmsted as well as a staff member, Natalie Moore. A new lease agreement should be reviewed with the township lawyer and entered into between the township and the association. Also, the township will investigate the possibility of incorporating the Cobden Rec Association. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Moved by Terry Miller, seconded by Kathy Rager. Be it resolved that pursuant to the Section 3417 of the Planning Act, the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region has determined that no further public notice is required in respect to changes that were made to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for Jason Brubaker after the public meeting of September 16, 2015. Any questions? Hope, would you speak to this?
Sure. So at the time of the actual public meeting on September the 16th, we did receive a letter of objection from Mr. Patterson, which he has since withdrawn. There were no other comments and concerns from the public nor from council. So through the Planning Act, we're not mandated to actually have another public meeting. So we need to pass a motion before then passing a bylaw, and then the 20-day appeal period will begin as normal.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Kathy Rager, second by Terry Miller. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Whitewater Region approves the following bylaws be introduced, read, dealt with, numbered, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed and recorded in the bylaw book. 1. Bylaw 15-12830, parking bylaw. 2. Bylaw 15-12831, tile drainage black. 3. Bylaw 15-12-832, Brubaker ZBLA. Number 4, Bylaw 15-12-833, Medical Center Board. 5, Bylaw 15-12-834, ORES Lease Agreement. And number 6, Bylaw 15-12-835, ORS Project Management Services Agreement. Any questions? We want to start with the parking bylaw. Any questions on the parking bylaw? Councillor McLaughlin.
I'm just wondering, Doug, where signage is for coming for Cobden? Yes, over by the school.
On the mic,
They are being made, and it takes a little while to be made, but we will have them up in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, that'd be great news.
Okay.
So will we be in the new year?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Moving on to bylaw number 2, tile drain. Any questions? Number 3, Brubaker ZBLA. Medical Center Board. Any questions? Oh, yeah. In this, the request of the Medical Center Board was to change the word board to committee. Is council okay with that? Okay. Board seems a little far-reaching for what they do. So can we just change it on here? Okay, okay. ORES lease agreement. Any questions? Councillor Homestead.
So, are we having a discussion tonight about ORES? I did see some back and forth, and,
Yeah.
I just didn't see it on the agenda. So at what point? No. Okay, thank you.
So we could really just keep those two. Or go ahead.
You might as well discuss them now, and then you can
Okay.
keep them back, or you can have your discussions now and decide if you want to keep them in or out of your resolution. I had invited,
Okay, well, we'll get them to come forward then. So now we have to put that up.
Gentlemen, if you tap the mic when it's blue, it's on.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for hearing us.
Okay, we can direct our questions to these gentlemen, which I'm sure we have questions.
Maybe I could preface any questions with a couple of clarifications.
Carry on prefacing.
There is a document that was passed by the previous administration, which is an ORES shareholder agreement, which clarifies the position in terms of what revenues that this municipality receives from this lease agreement. So in Christine's opening report, there is reference to the shareholding structure of 147 shares. If you read the November 2014 amendment to the shareholders agreement, it clarifies to the point that projects undertaken within the service area of any of the 4 municipalities, all that revenue is to the account of that municipality. It's not just the 2% position that you're currently in under the common share structure. So I noticed, Christine, you indicated the 20% lease payment, but subsequent to that, all the 100% of the revenues from these projects does accrue to this municipality, not just the ratio of the 147 shares to the total, which is quite a significant difference. It is 100% instead of 2%.
Repeat that?
If I use
not the whole thing, just the last
If I
sentence.
use the figures, if the current project's generating $40,000 a year, municipality initially receives 20% of that, which is round figures is the $8,000, and then subsequent to that, there is a statement here that indicates that only a proportion in relationship to the municipality's shareholding relative to all the 4 municipalities' shareholding accrues to this municipality, which is 147 shares out of, 5,000 or so, which is about 2 or 3%. That is not correct. Projects undertaken within this municipal service area will accrue in total to this municipality. Yeah. It's under the heading of, I can leave copies with anybody that wishes a copy of this, but it did clarify this rather uncertain issue back in November of 2014. For the obvious reason that why would you proceed with projects in your area only seeing 2% of it, and the bigger shareholder, namely Pembroke, would receive the lion's share of it. That doesn't happen.
Could you just, maybe just, makes more sense to throw numbers at that?
Well,
for instance,
if we use the numbers that are quoted here, $40,000, 20% upfront over the debt service period, which would be the 5 or so years. Subsequent to that, all the dividend revenue that is surplus, in other words, the $40,000, accrues to Whitewater region.
Okay, so that's a substantial improvement in.
And the second point I'd like to make in terms of clarification, and given the previous items on this agenda tonight where you're spending money, I'll be only too glad to show you ways of making significant money. You don't have to limit solar with ORES to just the municipally owned projects. owned properties. That can be extended to residential properties. We're working on whether or not we're entitled to do commercial properties, but certainly, you could be easily talking $100,000 a year if you allow ORES to expand this process beyond just the municipally owned projects that we're currently talking about today.
And
It's an excellent revenue stream.
Yes.
Municipality is financially non-liable. This is all under the ORES corporate banner, if you like. And I would seriously recommend that you, as well as passing a resolution on the municipally owned projects, that you do consider extending it to, beyond just the municipal properties.
That would be, we would get a profit share on the citizens that go ahead with their projects.
Yeah, if we did, say, 25 properties, $4,000 a year, so $100,000. This municipality sees all of that.
Right on. Councillor Jackson.
Might help you pay for the
for other projects we have, yeah. Nothing is put towards anything else at this point because there hasn't been a decision, so. Councillor Jackson?
So you're saying that we're going to get 100% of the profit of 42,000
Correct.
plus 20%, Brent?
No.
No, I was going to say.
Initially, ORES is financing these projects.
Yes.
Right.
If we assume a nominal 5-6 year payback, for the duration of the payback period, we are providing the municipality with a nominal 20% lease payment from the get-go.
So from the get-go, they won't receive...
ORES pays off the capital. Once the capital is paid off, then for 100% of the ongoing contract revenue becomes available to the municipality. Obviously, less any operating costs.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that clarification. Then I have one further question. So a lot of these areas are not powered by your power company. They're powered by Hydro One.
A combination of Ottawa River Power and Hydro One, correct?
So you work in conjunction with Hydro One.
It doesn't matter which the LDC is. We apply to either. Obviously, it's a lot swifter, cleaner process if they happen to be Ottawa River Power, as much as it's a sister company, so we get some more preferential treatment.
And
certainly in terms of speed.
And this lease agreement, this agreement still doesn't tie us into going ahead if the structural costs are going to be too costly for the municipality.
There is no cost to the municipality.
So if a roof needs to be repaired to allow for...
in terms of existing buildings,
yes.
Roof, the situation, should it arise, ORES would remove the system for that repair to take place.
But what I'm saying, just to install them. Just to install them now, has there been any functionability testing done on the structures currently?
No, that would be done as part of our due diligence, technical due diligence. We have to involve structural engineers to certify that the roofs that we're going to be putting the system on are structurally capable of handling that, as similar to having to obtain building permits. So we have to go through all that as part of the process, for sure.
And I guess my question...
Should that prove unsuitable, then yes, we would have to reconsider whether we proceeded or spent money or whatever.
So my question is if there is a cost and you're willing to fund those costs, and take it off of our revenue that we would receive, correct? So
speaking personally, I have made the case with ORES, particularly the board, that if we're doing, say, 100 projects amongst the 4 municipalities, some of those, there's going to be this issue that needs to be addressed. Again, personally, I've raised the idea of having, creating a sort of a sinking fund so that we could even look at contributing towards any, repair process. not every roof will need repairing, thank goodness. Some of these costs could be substantial, and if they were very substantial, which made that particular project not doable, you would just pass on that particular project. But we could consider some nominal financial involvement. Again, I'm speaking personally here. I see that as a good move on our part. If it was, say, a significant cost, we would just kick that project out and move on to the next one and find others that were more suitable.
Right, so this is just locking us in to an amount for the process. Is it locking us into each individual project?
I'm not sure what you mean by locking you into an amount.
Is it,
You're not being locked into anything. You're signing a lease to allow ORES to finance on our own basis.
Right.
And our own liability.
No, and I get that.
Install projects that generates revenue for the municipality.
I understand that 100%. But if you determine that one roof is going to cost $20,000 and you're just going to roll it into the cost, at one point in time, does it come back to the township to decide whether or not it's feasible, whether or not we're going to have the extra cost added to the cost of installation? Because while you're funding the project, you're only paying us 20% of the 100% revenues, right, for the first so many years. So are those costs of preparing the infrastructure, not installing your infrastructure, but preparing our infrastructure, are they going to be rolled in to the cost of the project? And if so, when does the township have the opportunity to accept or not accept those extra costs?
Before we would proceed with any individual project, we would have satisfied ourselves as to what the total cost of that project is, which would be the cost of the system itself, plus any, let's call it, roof repair work.
Right, but you're saying that you get the ability to satisfy yourselves. When does the township get the ability to satisfy themselves as to the actual cost?
I want to intervene here a bit. What I understand is that before you put anything on one of our roofs, if you have to do anything, or even if you don't have to do anything, it has to be approved. And so if we have to do work, you will either say we can roll it into the costs, do you want us to go ahead, or we could say, no, we don't want any part of that. So we're going to ask you not to do that project. Am I correct, kind of? Yeah, so we have, what Charlene is asking is, or making the statement, we would definitely need to be abreast of all of the decisions to go ahead or not go ahead if there's any work has to be done. Because we may deem that we don't want to be any part of that. Like we don't want you to go ahead. So what we're saying is, before you do anything on any one of the projects, because you're going to do them one at a time, you're going to be throwing 7 of them up, we would like to know before you go forward with that. We'd like to be that as part of the agreement.
Correct. In as much as we would satisfy ourselves, we would also communicate that information to yourselves. We would have that discussion prior to installing the system, as you rightly point out. If that cost, or whatever the cost might be, let's assume it's purely the roof structure, was significant, we would then be faced with a decision. Do we pay for it? Who pays for it? Who shares the cost of it? Or do we even accept the cost at all and just pass on that project? But those decisions will all be made totally prior to actually proceeding with that individual project.
And we'd be kept abreast of that at all times.
You certainly would.
Yeah, because I've only ever seen the revenue coming in. I haven't seen, and point me in the right direction, but I haven't come across the actual expense it's going to be to install your infrastructure above and beyond what any repairs has to be done to.
Part of our design process is to establish structurally with a structural engineer that particular roof is suitable for what we are planning to put on it. We have to satisfy them.
Right.
And that's cost of that process is on us.
I can answer that. There's no cost to us.
Well, they're funding there is a cost, because they're taking 80% of the revenue for the first how many years.
Okay.
So there is a cost. So it's like a financing agreement.
but it's,
Yeah, okay, well, we're not
So
putting any money down.
we're not putting any money down. They are financing it for us, and we're paying it back through the revenues that could possibly be generated. But I have yet to be seen anywhere where there is an expense on how much it's going to cost to actually do this. And then, so if you say, okay, today it's going to cost $100,000 just for your infrastructure, and we say, okay, we're satisfied with that because after how many years we're going to get the 100% revenue, and we're going to achieve this much revenue over the period of 20 years or 10 years, whatever it is. But in reality, once you analyze the infrastructure that we own and what needs to be repaired to allow it, we don't know what the cost was and what the cost will be. What you anticipate your cost to be, I have not seen that. I haven't seen, and then once you get your engineers to analyze our infrastructure to put it on those roofs or those buildings, then we can see, okay, well, if it's going to cost $100,000, then it's another $100,000 to fix. Are we going to go ahead with it?
no, right now we look at purely the system cost, and we look at the revenue, and we derive a simple payback. $20,000, $4,000 a year, that's a 5-year payback. Part of the design analysis is this structural review of the roof, which is totally separate from the system itself. The roof is either deemed good, doesn't need any work at all, in which case we proceed. It may need nominal work. Maybe we see that in 5 years' time it's going to need some work. Do we do it now? Do we do it later? It may be maybe as bad as a complete roof repair, and that could cost significant money. So let me toss out some numbers. If we're talking $25,000 for the system, and then we look at a roof and we have to spend $50,000 fixing the roof, we're just not going to do the project. If it was $25,000 for the system and $2,000 or $3,000 for the roof, we would have a discussion. Do we roll that into our 100+ projects, and which amounts to $200 per project, and we give you if you like, a freebie, or do you pay the $2,000 or $3,000 and fix that prior to us putting the system on?
Councillor Olmsted.
No decisions are going to be made prior to any discussion. No, we're not going to be building it and then deciding this after the fact, for sure.
No, I agree. And I guess the question is when do we get to see those numbers before it's actually being built?
ORES would have a dialogue with you as we go through the design process. We would look at the roof. We'll come back and say, for this roof, our structural engineer has indicated that is perfectly okay, no work needed, so we're going to proceed with that project. And you'll say, fine. Another roof may need resurfacing or something.
This agreement then isn't locking us in to each individual project at this time.
No,
and that was my original question.
No, this is just you are leasing ORES your roof space in order for us to install a solar project which generates contract revenue to the benefit of the municipality. If the cost of doing that is exorbitant or beyond a reasonable payback period, mainly due to any additional costs such as roof repair, we would make that decision before we proceed with the project. You would not be liable for anything, and we wouldn't just proceed. We'd just say, let's pass on that project, let's carry on with the next projects on the list, or let's find another project in lieu of that one.
So you're going to come back at some point with the expenses of each individual project before they're approved to start?
If there's expenses involved in the roofs, we would certainly notify you before anything is proceeded with, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Olmsted.
As I'm not very good with percentages, but I understand dollars and cents. So I need to know what is the net revenue that the township is expected to see on an annual basis. So you've given me the 2%, but we're going to receive 100%. There's 4,000,
Going on the
20,000
10
for 5
projects,
years.
going on the 10 projects that we've currently considered, which are the municipally owned projects, and I stress again, this could be opened up to more than just municipally owned projects.
So
We're talking
if I may,
$40,000.
if I may, can we deal just with this? We're way over. We're all over the map here. So my understanding is Beachburg is not part of the project now. Am I correct in that?
The arena.
Beachburg's taken out. So I'd like to deal just with the projects that we have potentially signed on for. What is the net revenue that the township can expect? Forget the expense, and I appreciate Councillor Jackson's question. I agree with them. But at the end of the day, what's the net revenue that the township can expect from investing into these projects?
Well, you essentially, Chris, you can use the numbers in Christine's report. $40,000 annual revenue. During the financial payback period, you get 20% of that.
So 20% of $40,000
which would be $8,000 for each year, starting day one for the first
So I'd like to see the
years.
schedule. Forget 20% of the. It's a 20-year project, correct? It's a 20-year agreement.
20-year contract.
So
power contracts.
I'd like to see an annual schedule, because at the start of the meeting it was we're going to receive 100%, not 2% of the. I don't even know where that number came from, but I want to know what's the true dollar that the township can expect year 1, 2, 5, 15, 20. There should be a schedule like that.
That can easily be produced.
But
for the sake purposes of this discussion, if we use the $40,000 figure based on 10 projects, if you did 50 projects, obviously it's a different number, but let's stick with the $40,000 quoted here for the municipally owned projects. During the payback period, you're getting 20% of that, which is $8,000 a year. So 8,000, 8,000, 8,000, 8,000, 8,000. Then that goes up till the debt is repaid. Then all that revenue is now not going towards debt repayment. It is there as in the form of dividends to the municipality.
And that's what I'd like to see.
And that's where the 100% comes in. That's the 100% figure I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
So in round figures, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, 40, whatever. So
can we actually get that schedule on paper? That I think it'll be a lot easier for us to understand that if we receive something.
I can produce something for sure.
Thank you.
Along with that, though, you have to add into that the other dividends that come in, which will boost that up.
This has nothing to do with the dividends that are already accruing through ORES on
they would be
on its other activities.
Okay, then we're not talking about that, sorry. Councillor Mackay.
Don't these systems after a while deteriorate, so they make less power?
There is a slight degradation.
So would our money go down as we went along?
It does go down slightly.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you.
I would ask you to think about this in terms of how much money do I, as a municipality, would like to make out of this. If you set a target for me and say, Jim, do our municipal projects, that's going to generate us $40,000 a year, but we would like $100,000 a year. Why can you, ORES, set us on a path towards generating $100,000 a year? We would then take a look at that. We would go and sign up other properties for microfit projects, say another 25 residential projects, each generating $4,000 a year. So you could easily get up to the $100,000 figure. And yes, it does degrade, to answer Councillor McKay's question. There is a slight 0.5% a year degradation on the panel. So yes, it does kind of go down slightly. But if you're worried about that, then just do another project to make up the shortfall. Think of it in terms of dollars per year, not dollars per kilowatt hour that you're generating.
Yeah. Okay, Reeve Miller.
I would just consider yourself asked then for $100,000 a year and show it to us.
I'm not tossing that figure out.
No, but
lightly.
Pick a number better than 20.
This is what's being considered by your other municipal partners here to extend this to almost to the limit of our staffing capability. It's quite achievable if you think of what the revenue you can get from one homeowner with one 10 kilowatt microgrid project. That's only 20, 25 projects. And that
Right.
gives you the whole 100%, 100,000, not just the extra 60.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to look.
We can do that in 2 phases. I think what we're up to here tonight is to try and decide whether or not we're
The
going
ORES
with
board instructed us to look at municipal shareholders first. So we're looking at municipal shareholders, as in municipally owned properties first. That can very quickly, as I've said, be extended beyond that. You don't have to kind of think just within this $40,000 because we've only got 10 projects, we've only got 10 properties we can do, therefore we're limited. No, you're not limited because you can go beyond the municipally owned projects.
and we can follow up with this one anytime we want. Correct?
For now, we're talking about the
That's all we're talking about is this
municipally
one
owned
right now.
projects.
And then we can go forward tomorrow on the other ones.
Next year, we
Councillor
can have this discussion about extending it to other properties, for sure, and then generating further revenues that way.
And I guess the other question is, I mean, it's been said that it's not going to cost us any money, but what is the incentive for ORES to complete this project? You've got to be making money.
ORES is, you're a shareholder of ORES. You own us.
The incentive.
We are there to generate money for you. Simple as.
I get it, but a lot of these projects are Hydro One projects and not ORES.
ORPC.
ORPC.
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay, but there has to be a percentage. There has to be some. If you're saying that you're generating money for the partners, what money are we generating for the company in order to generate for the partners? If we're getting 100% of the revenue,
You're generating $40,000 for ORES, who then pays you 100% of that revenue. Obviously, it's got operating costs, but they can be kept relatively small.
This is an incentive that through the Ontario Government Energy Board, basically, that has asked the utilities to work together and to work with their partners and so on and so forth. But it's the same thing as if Ontario Hydro wants to do a project within ORPG territory. Did you just reverse the negotiations?
There's no
correct?
geographical limitations to where we can work. This is an Ontario.
I get it, but usually there's
project.
a percentage for consultants or a percentage for ensuring that it gets built, and I guess we'd just like to know what all those costs are up front. I shouldn't say we, I would like to know what all those costs are up front. So does it cost us $40,000 to install all of this equipment, plus an additional 5% that goes to the corporation? And then, so we're paying back...
Let me give you one example then. Let's consider a 10 kilowatt.
I guess the simple question is there any money in it, or
Oh, well, if there isn't, they're not going to do it.
Well, that's my question.
ORES has operating cost.
Yes. They're a private
as any
company. They
business
have to get
does.
something. And we're shareholders.
If you
That's just simple math thing.
If you went to a solar company today
Yeah.
and said, sell me a 10 kilowatt system, you're going to be charged $35,000. The cost of that to that company is about $21,000. ORES buys that equipment in bulk. We get at least as good a price as that. So let's call it round figures. The cost to ORES is $20,000. Spread over 100 projects or 200 projects a year, the operating cost of ORES may account for $1,000 or $2,000 per system.